Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this Ag Forecast for South America, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Our first map shows satellite-derived precipitation going back over the time period of December the 1st through the 19th. And much of the heaviest rain's been kind of split north-south. So we've seen some very heavy rain in northern Mato Grosso do Sul, and then in Mato Grosso, Tocantins and Goiás, then over toward Minas Gerais and Bahia. There's been some locally very, very heavy rain in places here, some places picking up in excess of 10 to 12 inches of rain as of late. But you get south into Sao Paulo, southern Mato Grosso do Sul, Paraná, Santa Catarina, Rio Grande do Sul, and there are places in here that have seen well less than an inch of rainfall in that time period. And throughout parts of Argentina, the drier forecast is now coming on, but there's still places that are in deficit as you get right here along the Paraná River back over toward Buenos Aires. Now, it's not quite the problems that we've seen in southern Brazil, but the forecast in the coming days is looking very dry. Now, this is one way by which we can measure historical precipitation. This is another. This comes from the CPC dataset, and it is not based on satellite. It's based on rain gauge. So when you look at this, you see a lot of really blotchy nature to the pattern here, and that's because the distribution of these rain gauges, they're pretty far and few between. And to southern Brazil, though, we see much more consistent, drier weather, and that's same for parts of Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina. So our concern is down here, and we've already started to see this show up in some of the satellite observations. So looking here at one of my favorite websites, again, this is the star.nesdis.noaa.gov site. You just look at some of their different vegetation health indexes. They have a huge drop-down menu of things to look at here. What I did was I looked at the vegetation health index change from a year ago, and I'm just going to take a close look down here. Let's get over that again into South America. Now, a lot of times these index values do not work well here, and the reason why there or in the Amazon is because there's too much cloud contamination. We just don't get enough opportunities to see through the cloud cover down to the vegetation because of the strength of the monsoon. So let's not look at it here. But compared to a year ago, look at this region in southern Brazil, and that's a big area we talked about there, showing up with vegetation health index values that are much lower than they were a year ago. Looking at some live data not from NOAA and NESDIS, but instead from NASA and the MODIS satellite, what I'm doing now is we're looking at NDVI values. The brighter the color on this side of the color bar, the healthier the crop looks, and the more blue to dark, the less healthy it looks. And what I start to see is, again, don't look, north of that line, this is all cloud contamination. So don't look at this and go, wow, it looks terrible. That's all cloud contamination. But notice this very productive part of Paraná, here into Rio Grande do Sul, Uruguay on this side of that line, and then throughout, there's the Paraná River. But surrounding basin here, the values are just not high. And that's the area that we've seen that's been stressed. Now, if I come back and show you this again, how well was this forecast, this big dry area here, with much wetter to the north? I'll take a look at this. This was the forecast from a month ago, released on the 18th. And this is why I have such trust in the long-range models, which we're going to look at in a second here, for South America. They picked this up really well, the wetter conditions here and here. And they picked up on that drier bias to the south and in Argentina. This was a month ago, the forecast for the last 30 days. And just to show you again, this is the verification. Therefore, when I look forward at the month of January from the European weeklies, which we're going to do in a moment, I've got a lot of confidence in what they're going to show. Now, personally, I think a lot of this pattern is predicated on the behavior of La Nina. We talked at length last week about Nina region 1+2 and its correlation this time of year with drier conditions here. But the ocean temperatures here in the Central Pacific are starting to fade, and the trade winds are no longer robust and strong in this area. And I want to show you the consequences of that. We're getting much stronger easterly winds here, and there's actually been at times some westerly wind bursts there. And the net effect is to get a lot of subsidence in this general area. That's right around MJO region 3. Now you can see it on this graphic. You see these warmer colors? This is today, going all the way through January 3rd. And those warmer colors that you see in this vicinity are sitting right on top of the MJO region called phase 3. Now what ends up occurring in this particular pattern is we get rising motion here over the Amazon. So this area is going to have a lot of support in rising motion, while there's a lot of sinking motion in the Indian Ocean. And I want to show you the net effect of that. it's going to enhance the monsoon. Let me zoom out so you can see this. You notice that very wet conditions here, very wet conditions coming around, and right over here in Brazil's eastern growing areas, over the next 10 days, more than 4 inches of additional rainfall is expected to be there. So I'm talking 100 to 150 millimeters of excess precipitation. And what I want to talk with you about with this is, if I come back to this graph and I come down here, just look at the next 5 days. If all of the rising motion is in there, you're going to get exhaust in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And therefore, there's sinking motion right in this vicinity. So the air is going down here. And the net effect is to make it wet north and drier to the south. Now let me highlight the regions we're looking at again. Goiás, southern Goiás, Mato Grosso do Sul, Sao Paulo, Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Rio Grande do Sul. Better than 40% of Brazil's production is in this area, going through the solstice, the summer solstice, by the way, with a well below average precipitation, while we're expecting flooding rains in Brazil's east. The place that's got the best scenario here is in Mato Grosso. And yeah, there's like 30% of the crop that's grown there. They're getting ready to harvest that first crop of soybeans as well. But this extends into Argentina. And you can see along the Paraná River, still quite dry. And I've been looking up a resource to see if I could find the water levels in the Paraná River, but I haven't been successful. So if any of you know of a good resource, I'd love to have access to that too. You can just put it in the comments for me. But let's just go ahead and look at what we've got from the European. As we play through into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, what I'm looking at here is just the fact we get little passing bands of showers. It's not as though there's widespread heavy rainfall. This is widely scattered rainfall. And as a result, places are going to miss out on this precip. That gets us through, looking out here midweek. What about the end of the week? By the time we get into Friday and Saturday, high pressure takes over. The frontal boundary stalls out here. And that's where the wettest conditions are. That's where the front is meeting up with the monsoonal flow. And the net effect is just to squeeze the atmosphere. But this is all under the influence of high pressure by the time we get to Saturday, into Sunday, going out there into Monday of next week. There's the potential for a coastal low to develop right in through here. But still, we're not talking about much precipitation at all once we get past this time period. So again, we just stress that this is what we're looking at in terms of precipitation compared to average. Some places here, 1 inch to 2+ inches of deficit just in the next 10 days. We can add it all up just so you can see how much is coming through there. And this is in millimeters, just so you know. And as we play forward, this is getting through Friday into the weekend. At best, in this region, scattered showers. Nothing substantial bringing through wet, what I would call drought-correcting rain. And the models don't let this go. This is now what we see out there for temperatures. Watch. Under that drier air, we have above average temperatures, just to a 1-week sliding window into the beginning of January. Temperatures here 2 to 5 Celsius above average. And all the way out there to that 3rd of January, it just keeps the wetter weather north and the much drier conditions to the south. So I'm expecting continual flooding in this area in places. And just on the other side of that line, much drier conditions. I'll just say it's consistent with what the MJO is doing. It's consistent with La Nina fading. It's consistent with the strong, above average values we've seen in the southern annular mode. We're just kind of piecing this together and now seeing the end result. Now remember, we had been forecasting this according to the European model very, very well over the past month. And this is the newest update. So that's from now through January 19th. But I want you to watch this, okay? We talked about this last Thursday. 1 month sliding window. As I go through the end of January, let's now look at the whole month of January right there. Did you see how we started to return better precipitation into southern Brazil? That doesn't mean the damage to this crop won't already be done during that time period. But the models then pushed the drier conditions south into Argentina by the end of the month. And then it seems as we get into February, that seems to be the case. Now, we saw something like this last year. Do you remember that? Where southern Brazil went very, very wet. Now, this is not what we're calling for this year, but went very, very wet in January. Major problems in southern Brazil because then it finished extremely dry. And if you get a chance, you'll see my video last week that we are worried for the safrinha crop that it actually could favor drier conditions in northern Brazil later. So there's still a lot of time to watch the crop develop and then mature here in South America. But I think in the near term, we're split north-south on this pattern. And just take you back to show you that again. That's what I think we're going to be seeing here for the next several days at least. So we'll watch it and see what kind of things change here, and I'll report back to you again on Thursday. Thank you.